Just one last thing to have a look at, and that is the support needs. I'm not going to say very much about preferences, but obviously it's very helpful if you use teaching methods which the students enjoy. A lot of the research on learning styles has been very solidly debunked by people like Professor Frank Coffield and so on. So, we find that actually it's variety that counts more than actually fitting a style to a student and so on. But the support needs are really crucial. Can you just read that? You can read it as well as I. It's not actually in your pack, but just have a quick look at that. Took 9 years, notice. But isn't that astonishing? And there was no substitution of proper GCSEs, in inverted commas, with some qualification that's supposed to be equivalent to 4 GCSEs that you can do in, on a Friday afternoon, while walking the dog. It's not nothing like that. It was real. It was these are real GCSEs. The scores don't look quite as brilliant if you include maths and GCSE. And we could easily get the same data for our sector. No problem at all. Going to certain colleges, you'd find success rates have gone through the roof, over a long period of. But what the hell is this assertive mentoring if it's doing that? Yeah, that's a really special, wacky method, isn't it? That's achieving that sort of a level, going from 38% of students to 96. And by the way, now they've got to 96, they're not happy. They're working towards 97. And they've got a very normal catchment. They have nothing special about the catchment in Darlington. And there's some deprivation, there's some poverty, and there's some middle class. It's a very mixed catchment. What did they do? Well, in FE, we're terribly, terribly familiar with this, but it's a question of the degree to which you do it. There's a problem with both differentiated by task and by differentiating by outcome. And that is that some students still won't succeed. Some Roberts will still walk out of the classroom with a puzzle. Didn't quite get that. Didn't quite make sense of that. You've got to discover them and you've got to put it right. And that's what that's what Herworth does, and this is what good FE colleges do. All of you will recognize that. Right? Assess learners' needs, individual learning plan, do an on-program assessment, perhaps a student self-assessing, how well have I done? What do I need to do to improve? Teacher assessments, Phyllis and Rodney are all handing in their assignments very well, but I'm not getting very many from Roberta, that sort of thing. And then the teacher sits down in the middle here, at the bottom here in the middle, one-to-one, the tutor or the teacher or somebody sits down with the student one-to-one and says, well, how's it going? I notice you've not done too well in Module 3. What's the difficulty there? Set an action plan, yeah. And then the student works on the action plan, maybe with support if it's necessary, maybe not. And then it comes round again. And we all recognize that, but it has to be done with very great care and very great rigor to get the results that Herworth did. I showed this to somebody once and they said, oh, we've got that in our college, but without the arrows. All right? And I think that was a very telling remark. And they were only partly joking. So suppose the assessed learner's needs discovers that Robert's not very good at percentages. He's got a GCSE in maths, but he doesn't happen to be able to do percentages. Because the assessment of learners' needs was so good, it wasn't just saying, oh, he's got GCSE with maths, he won't have any trouble with maths. Any teacher who says that needs to think again, don't they? Instead, the teacher says, hey, I'm a business studies lecturer. I need my students to be able to do percentages. We use it for data analysis. So I'm going to ask my students at the very beginning of the very first day, or maybe even before, in enrollment, I'm going to say, do this questionnaire, and one question is, what's 47 as a percentage of 259? Could you do that? Okay? And Robert says, no. Yeah? And Susan says, well, I'm not sure, but, oh, he's giving me the answer here. Let's just try. Oh, yes, I can do that. Tick. Yeah? Now, the teacher knows who can do it and who can't. And that would be true, ideally, of all the prior learning that's a prerequisite for performance, good performance on the course. But there's an arrow. It goes to the individual learning plan. But there's an arrow. It goes to the via the on-program assessment. It goes to the one-to-one. Oh, I noticed you've got a bit of trouble with you noticed you said that you weren't too good on percentages, Robert. What can we do about that? Yeah. So the arrows are really, really, really vital, aren't they? The other thing, the other major difference between the way Herworth does this and the way many FE colleges do this, though not all, is that for many FE colleges, this is a 6-week cycle, right? And in Herworth, it's a 6-week cycle for some students, and it's a 3-week cycle for others, and it's a 1-week cycle for others still, and it's a 1-day cycle for some students, yeah? Where they're perpetually being assessed as to, are you falling behind, are you having trouble, did you go to Mr. Brown's lecture? Everything is sort of, so there's a one-to-one sort of every day at the end of every day, and the teacher sort of talks. And the idea of it, and also support, is made proportional to need. So if a student needs an awful lot of support, they get it. The course finds that need is necessary and makes sure that the student gets it. Yeah? Terribly difficult to do. All sort of operational difficulties associated with that are enormous. But the assumption behind it is everybody can learn. Right? That's the assumption behind it. Everybody can learn if they're given the support they need. And do you know what? It's true. It's actually true. They're actually doing that practically. As one, almost every student is being successful at actually quite a high standard, 5 good GCSEs. Yeah? So, the assumption is that everybody can succeed if they get the support, and then they put the support in, and they put more and more and more support in, until eventually the student floats. Some students will be getting buddies that will help them with this, that, and the other. Another one, might be going to learning support. Another one might be, and all of these extra supports aren't things that are being done for free by tired teachers. They're actually embedded in the way the college works. It's a very, very demanding thing to get right. But if I don't know whether you came across the Japanese catch-up strategy in from Dylan Williams's book. I mean, that's this really, isn't it? Yeah. Let's find out what they can't do and let's put it right. So if you devise systems which pick up the weaknesses in the students' learning over, not just in the lesson, but over a longer term, over 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, and then put those right, then you're going to get more success. But haven't we come across that before? Isn't it called formative assessment? Isn't it called formative assessment? When you find faults and fix them? Yeah, isn't it? When you find students can't do something, you give them feedback and then support until eventually they can do it. It's that same story, but instead of being on a cycle that goes on in a classroom, in an hour, within an hour, or within a few minutes even, it's going on over a week, over a day, over a month, over many weeks. But there is that cycle, that fixing cycle put in place. Okay. One thing that helps this process is self-evaluation. Ask the student, how are you doing? How are you doing on this course? And this is one way that I rather like. There's a black line that runs down the middle, and up the side, or these columns, each one is what the course team think are the crucial things the student's got to do in order to be successful. And the black line is the minimum level they would ever expect a student to drop to. They'd hope for more, but you haven't actually got a copy of this in your pack, but it's in Teaching Today. I'm not sure it's in. If you look up Catch Them Before They Fall, because this whole cycle I call Catch Them Before They Fall, in Teaching Today, you'll see all of this stuff in there. But, private study per week, it's got to be 8 hours a week or more, say the tutors. If it's 6 hours or less, we want to know about it, but we've got to fix it. So that's all part of that process. Okay. Can I just leave you a minute, because we've covered a lot here. Looking at that cycle, and thinking about, this is the self-assessment bit that's during the on-program assessment, the self-assessment bit. And thinking about this idea of formative assessment over a longer period of time, not just in the lesson, but over a series of lessons. Roberta's not handing in her assignments in Module 3, you know. Those sorts of longer-term things, but we're going to fix it, we're going to give her help and so on. Is there anything that you could do to improve your differentiation strategies in that direction of fixing things over a longer cycle? Just give you 3 or 4 minutes to discuss that on your teams, okay?